All right, I just want to do a quick video talking about the deception of outer space, right? So, just yesterday, I was looking on YouTube and I happened to see a funny meme. And the meme was about, a bank security camera from like 20 feet away. It has a pixelated, version of like everybody's face. So, if there's a robber, it's going to be difficult for them to identify the suspect in charge because of how bad quality the bank cameras are. But yet, on the other hand, they'll show like a picture of a planet that's like, 500 million miles away or, 20 million miles away or whatever, and it's crystal clear. Now, obviously, the picture of the planet is just CGI, right? It's not actually real. But it's just funny though, like they'll expect you to believe that they can actually get these crisp and clear images of these distant worlds. But on the other hand, bank security cameras can't even show a such a clear image from like 20 feet away. That's just pathetic. And a whole nother thing that everybody's talking about is just recently, within the last couple of days, there was this new Blue Origin a launch that just happened. With they had like a crew of like five different women, and there was a woman named Katy Perry, which is a popular person. She was among the flight crew as well, and somebody pointed out that the patch that they're wearing, not only with the not only with the blue suits they got on, but they have like a patch they wear, and if you flip it upside down, it actually shows a picture that looks like the satanic Baphomet image. You can look this up. Just flip it around, and you can see it, and it even looks like it has the horns on it as well, right? If you flip the image upside down, so that's an interesting point. And then another point, which this is pretty weird, when the capsule came back to the Earth, when Jeff Bezos went up to the door, they actually opened it from the inside. But the catch is though, they shouldn't be able to open the door from the inside because it was sealed from the outside. Like say for instance, like 5 minutes later, when he goes to open the door, he has to use a special tool in order to unlock the hinge to open the door. But yet, 5 minutes beforehand, the people inside the craft opened it up. It's like something isn't right there. Like if you watch the whole clip, they quickly told whoever opened the door on the inside, they told them to close it right away. Because it shows the flaw that well, hold up a second. If a door opens that easy from the inside, think about how dangerous that would be for these famous people involved to, fly to quote unquote, the edge of space to experience, zero gravity. Imagine if the door caved in up there. Then none of them would be coming back alive. So it's just weird to me. Like if you watch the clip, the door opens so loosely. Like I saw Eric Dubé's video, he described it as like a screen door, right? Like if you ever had a door that has a screen door attached to the main door, right? It's flimsy like that. And then 5 minutes later, when Jeff Bezos goes to open the door, he has to use a special tool in order to unlock the lock. It's like, what the hell? It's like, didn't they just open it 2 minutes beforehand or 5 minutes beforehand from the inside? So why the hell does he now need to unlock it like it's some type of, big secure door if they literally just opened it from the inside a few minutes prior? So yeah, there's definitely something, fishy up with that. There's something clearly wrong there. That's not adding up. Another thing is they claim that the sun is 93 million miles away from the earth. Well, this can't be the case because first of all, there's if you ever go outside on a bright sunny day, you can look at the rays of sunlight coming down through the clouds, and you'll notice that they all are in like an arc going back to the sun. And if the sun was really 93 million miles from the earth, it wouldn't cast light like that. It shows that it's actually a local source light. Like, say, for instance, if you have like a singular light from the ceiling inside like a long garage or something, like a warehouse, you'll notice the light, shines out in every direction. But as you continue to get further and further from the light, it starts to dissipate, right? But with the sun, it's basically the same way. Like say for instance, there's high altitude camera footage where you can see sunspots on the bottom of, or I should say the top of clouds, just under where the sun is. Now that can't be if the sun is 93 million miles away. The entire side of the earth towards the sun shall all be lit up the same. First of all, here's a fun fact for you. Did you know that they say you can fit like 1,300,000 Earths into the sun? That's how big they claim the sun is. The sun is like 100 times, if not more, larger than the Earth. I believe they said it's like, what, 800 thousand miles long or something like that. Y'all can look it up on Google. Don't believe what I'm saying. Look it up for yourself. They say it's like over 800,000 miles across the sun. Which, first of all, how the hell could anybody know that if nobody can even get close to the sun? And second of all, no probe can even get close to the sun in order to figure that out to begin with. It's too hot. It would melt. So how the hell do they know that? And the answer is, well, they don't know that. It's just like a rough estimate or a guess. But, they'll put that in the school books as if it's like, unquestionable, fact, right? Like, say, for instance, before in history, some people believed the sun was 45 miles away. Some believed it was 100 million miles, right? 45 million miles, 86 million miles, and so on and so forth. But now they settled on 93 million miles. It's like, well, shit, in 100 years from now, they might say it's 200 million miles. So the number just keeps either decreasing or increasing, right? So it shows it's not the exact science. It's just something that people are taking a guess about. Another example I'll give you for how space is just, fiction and made up is NASA claims that there are a quintillion different planets that exist throughout the galaxies. A quintillion, if you don't know how much that is, that's basically, what is that, like a billion, 1,000 times? So basically what they're saying is there's more planets out there throughout the infinite galaxies than there are than the amount of grains of sand at the seashore. Stop and think about that for a second. Do you really believe them when they say that? Is there really a quintillion other different worlds out there that exist? Obviously, the answer is no. But again, that's the mainstream science. That's what NASA is claiming now, that there's quintillion different planets out there, and some of them might be able to inhabit life. Like, say, for instance, I saw this documentary before. It's called Evacuate Earth. Look it up on YouTube. I believe it's from like the early 2000s. But it's actually a really good documentary I recommend watching. Again, it's called Evacuate Earth. I believe it's about 2 hours long. And, the whole point of it is like the world's going to end by like a neutron star. So they have like, 70 years or whatever to create a spacecraft to transport humans to a whole nother world. And then they claim, we found, an Earth 2.0 that's like, a light year away from Earth. And it's like, well, hold up a second. Well, these light years, these are not just terms they use in movies. Like, they actually claim that in real life that there's, planets that are like 5 light years away. Well, first of all, if it was really 5 light years away, well, how the hell do you even know it exists? Like, you certainly didn't get no damn satellite out there. I mean, there's no telescope that's gonna, zoom in on something that's, 5 light years away from the Earth. If you don't know how long a light year is, do a Google search on that, right? It's literally, you can't fathom how big that is, right? How big of a number that is. And you mean to tell me that they have like satellites that somehow were able to like pick up an imagery of it or some type of sonar from light years away. Like sorry, I call bullshit on that. That's not true. First of all, satellites themselves, which I believe satellites do exist, but they're just on high altitude weather balloons above the earth. Like say for instance, in 2019 there was a crash landing from one of these satellites, and it was attached to a popped balloon. So these satellites, they technically do exist, but they're just in high Earth orbit, floating around on balloons, right? On like high altitude balloons that are created to be able to stand for years up in that type of atmosphere. And then over the course of time, whether when they pop, they can fall back to Earth, and it's very likely they'll either end up in the water, which Earth is like 70% water, at least that's what they claim. So it's very likely they end up in the ocean, and once in a while they might even crash onto land. But even if they do land on the land, it's likely they won't ever be found for a very long time, because most people on Earth live in cities or populated areas, not just in random locations. Like say the deserts or the forest or so on and so forth. Right, the populations are mainly condensed into small areas around the world. A whole nother question is if there really were satellites out there, like they claim there's one a million miles from the Earth. Like if you do a Google search, they claim that they've took a picture of the Earth a million miles away. Like seriously, the Earth on this picture is like a little dot, right? Like a little pen dot. Like if you ever took like a notepad and just quickly put a little dot on it, just press the pen against it for a second, make that little dot. Basically, that's what the Earth was in the background of this picture, and that's what they claim the Earth is from a million miles away. It's like, I call bullshit on that. It's much more likely that they just photoshopped the image and just said that's what it is, compared to actually making a satellite and sending it a million miles from the Earth. First of all, how the hell could they get internet reception or any data back from a satellite a million miles away if I can't even go 20 feet from my house and keep the internet connection to the router in the house? And then second of all, you can go places on Earth and you won't get internet reception or cell service. So how the hell did y'all get the service to be able to connect with an object a million miles from the Earth, if even here on the Earth with the 50,000 supposed satellites that are orbiting the Earth, and we can't even get cell connection or internet connection everywhere on the Earth? Like seriously, you can go to the desert, you go to the beach, go to the middle of the ocean, go to the rainforest. You're not going to get internet reception there. Why? Because there's no cell towers there, and that's what it's based upon. So I call bullshit on that. And, people who just believe it, they believe it out of ignorance. Right? Like, again, nobody has ever, been to space for themselves. Nobody has ever seen it. Everybody just believes it because that's what we were told. Like, say, for instance, NASA has no excuse. NASA is getting $70 million every single day of the American taxpayer dollars, and they can't even give us a live feed from the surface of the moon. First of all, they claim they can't even get back to the moon today. Like, say, for instance, there's a famous clip online from like a NASA engineer, I believe it was like from 2015 or something like that. And the guy was saying, well, yeah, we had the technology to get to the moon in the 60s, but we destroyed that technology, and it's painful to rebuild it again. Well, first of all, there's 1,000 different questions off that statement alone. For one, why would you destroy the technology? And then second of all, is it really too difficult to recreate that perfectly today? Like, say, for instance, they claim that the phones that we have in our back pocket today are more advanced than the shuttle that supposedly took them to the moon. Look it up. That's what they claim. So if y'all can make technology that's even more advanced compared to what they had back then, well, then how the hell can you not get there today? Like seriously, like think about any type of other um, electronic device or technology we had back from the 50s and 60s. Can we not replicate it 100% better today? So why is it all of a sudden NASA gets a pat on the back when they claim that we can't recreate the technology from the 60s to get us to the moon today? I call bullshit on that. That's just a weak ass excuse. And you want to know why? That's a good excuse because they can actually get to the moon. They're just trying to push this ball as long as they can before they have to admit that they can't actually go there. Like, say, for instance, the same thing with these UFO phenomenon going on. Like, anybody remember? Like, I remember growing up in the 2000s, and, over the past 20 years, the government's like, there's no aliens. There's no UFOs. That's just, internet hoax or, people just lying. None of that's real. But all of a sudden, over the last like 5 years since 2020, now they're starting to admit, well, yeah, there are these objects. We don't know where they are coming from. We don't know what they are. They're not man made. We do know they exist, but we don't know what they are or where they're coming from. So the government's admitting it now. Well, yeah, these things are real. We don't know what they are, but they are real. They're literally admitting this, putting it on TV now, putting it, speaking about it openly in Congress. You know what I'm saying? So now it's not a kept secret anymore. Now the government's admitting, well, yeah, these do exist. We just don't know a lot about them. Whereas, 2 decades ago, 3 or 4 decades ago, they'd be like, well, yeah, they don't exist at all. It's just crazy to believe in UFOs. They're nothing, right? They're not real. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna be the same way with the moon landing. Slowly but surely, it seems like, every day that goes by, it seems like NASA's getting closer to admitting the truth that they did not actually go to the moon. Anybody remember back in 2015, which, believe it or not, was 10 years ago now? I remember Elon, before he blew up as some type of like internet hero that everybody knows. He wasn't as well known 10 years ago. People knew him, but, wasn't as popular as today. I mean, shit, now the dude's so popular, he's like, Trump's right-hand man in the White House, for Christ's sake. Right? The dude's bringing his own children to the Oval Office. But back then, 10 years ago, he was saying, well, yeah, we're going to take people to Mars and colonize Mars by the year 2030. 2030 is in 5 years from now, and there is no talk about going to Mars. Right? If you ask Elon about it, he'll be like, oh, I don't know. The dude's struggling to get his own supposed rockets to land smoothly here on the Earth. So what the hell odds are there that these guys are going to actually take people to Mars? But I just want to point out that this was a big thing 10 years ago. And now that 10 years went by, and again, the goal was 2030 that they would do it in, they were claiming. And now nobody talks about it anymore. And why is that? Because, well, they can't get there. It's just a lie. They're just taking the taxpayer dollars to try to put into these, promises that they're going to take people to these other planets, and they're just spending it on what they want. But one day, people are going to find out that, they're being lied to. And it seems like that day is approaching very soon. As the days go by, topics such as flat earth or, fake space and, other internet sensations are, starting to get more popular, right? People are starting to realize that they can't trust the people in charge. And I'll quickly touch on the moon landing. Well, first of all, if the moon landing, if it really did happen, well, why is it that we don't have like a base on the moon at this point? Like something, imagine how much of a benefit that would be. For one, if you set up a live stream from the moon for the Earth, you could educate children by using that. Every school in the world would be showing that to their students. That much you could learn there if you could set up a little base there. And first of all, The moon is only, according to them, only 230 some thousand miles from the Earth. So if anything really went wrong, you could evacuate the people. Or you can send them more supplies because they're only 230 some thousand miles away. So, like, why talk about going to colonize Mars and all that, which is, far greater distance compared to the Earth? Like, I believe they claim it would take a couple years to actually transport from Mars, from the Earth to Mars, right? They say it'd take a couple years to do that, whereas the moon is only like a couple of days, right? So, why not first colonize the moon before we move on to all these other distant planets? Like, again, if something went wrong at Mars, you couldn't reach the people in time. You couldn't resupply them in time. If something happened on the moon, it'd be far easier to, fix the problem. So again, there's so many questions that they're not ready to address at this point. And another one, the moon rocks, right? The moon rocks that they gave to like museums to put on display, a lot of them have been tested, and it turns out they're just like old wood. You can look this up. This is not even a joke. You look it up. Another one, this is a good one. The suit that the astronauts used in the 60s to go on the moon, if you look at the boot print, it doesn't actually match the pictures that they supposedly took on the moon. So that's another cut as well. So every way you look at it, it shows that there's a deception with this, whole outer space and, other distant galaxies that humans can travel to. And really, it's just science fiction. And a whole nother point I want to mention here is you see how good they depict space on like these TV shows or movies. Like, say, for a good example, if you ever watched the movie Life, which I recommend watching, it's actually a pretty good movie. But in Life, it's outer space is depicted so well, and the International Space Station is depicted so well. How do you know the difference between the fake one, which is the movie, and the supposed real one, which is NASA's, ISS, crew they supposedly have up there? Like, if they can actually fake it in the movie, why can't they fake it in real life? Logically think about that. If the real life version and the Hollywood version, if there's no difference between what they look like, well, then how do you know that the supposed real one is not actually fake? So that's a good point to leave off on, right? It shows if they got the capability of just faking it for a couple $1,000,000 like how they do in these movies, well, obviously they could do the exact same thing and just tell people that it's real. But anyway, I'm going to wrap the video up there.